Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Nick Richmond. I'm joined by my good friend, Greg Finkelstein. So we have a really, really cool webinar for you. What we're going to talk about is, in my opinion, really unique. We have a great relationship brewing here. Greg, just to get kind of started with him, actually worked with Matrix for 8 years, launched our Detroit location, helped us build that sales team out, began to reach over the sales team in Illinois as well, serving as a director of sales for Matrix, really working his way up through the ranks. And beyond that, myself, Dominic, my brother Nathan Richmond, we really eat, sleep, and breathe the sales methodology and best practices that we know make companies successful. And Greg was exposed to that from the outset. He mastered those methodologies and understands and appreciates those methodologies. Now he's with Sunlight, which is the platinum sponsor for Grasso University. One of our main sponsors, has been with us from the outset as well, investing in our program, doing really, really good by our clients, as well as by Matrix, who also works with Sunlight, which we're going to talk about in today's webinar. They provide a financing solution that is head and shoulders above the other options. And as an owner of a home improvement company, if I'm offering financing, and I am, which touches my money, which is one of the most important aspects of having a business, more than likely it's nerve-wracking to consider giving a new lender the opportunity to service your clients. No one wants to make a lateral move if they're going to give another lender a chance, because it just wouldn't make sense to do that, especially if you're loyal and faithful to the lender you're with. And they're all really good, so it's a very competitive world for them. They're all very good. And when I got with Sunlight and we began to build out this program together, I kept mentioning to them that we have to figure out how can we make it to where Sunlight is differentiated in a way where they have, even if it's just one or two things that are different and better than what anyone else can offer, that's going to be the key to really garnering more merchants and hitting the market in the way that we know you want to grow and expand. Now they're publicly traded. They just rang the bell on Wall Street. So amazing things are happening at Sunlight. They've done just that, and they've built out that platform that I perceive to be the platform that would make sense for any home or any business owner, and homeowner, to do business with Sunlight first and foremost. And Greg's going to take it away and introduce himself and talk about just that. What is the Sunlight difference? Greg, thanks for being with me.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. So yeah, just to touch on a little bit of my history, like Nick was saying, is I've onboarded with, we've tried over 8 years, 7 or 8 different finance companies, if not more. And I could tell you probably every strength and weakness that every single one of them has. And, going through the onboarding process now and the way that technology is changing every single day, it's important to get out and get some added benefits over your competition, right? Because like Nick was saying, nobody wants to make a lateral move, especially when you're growing in today's industry where it's crazy right now in home improvement, right? So we want to make this change worth it. So just to kind of touch on a few of these things that will make us a little bit better. And before we even get into this, I just want to say that, we practiced a one-call close at Matrix on bathrooms and basements, garages. And I can tell you that there's nothing worse than sitting in a house with a homeowner for 3 or 4 hours to earn the sale on a $75,000 basement, and then have issues when it comes to running an application or getting an approval or trying to sign e-docs that don't make any sense. So, what we try to do here at Sunlight is make everything easier for your sales reps to get in, get out, button up the sale, make everything stick, and just be a total all-in process, right? And what I found over the years, especially working at Matrix, was, each lender had their strengths and their weaknesses. So what we try to do here at Sunlight is just kind of take all the strengths and get rid of all the weaknesses. So just to highlight a few, what we do is focus on the highest approvals possible. So you're going to max out at 100K per homeowner. right? And we can dive into that a little bit more. We use stated household income. So if your homeowner is only putting it in one person's name and both people work, use both. It does not need to be directly tied to one person. You're going to get at least a $20,000 approval to work with. Even if you only ask for 5 grand, 10 grand, they're going to give them at least 20K right out of the gate. Reason being, when you're going through the process and you're doing a lot of change orders, you don't have to go back and re-sign e-docs. You know, you have a lot of that room to work with. Going through the production process, what it doesn't say on here is how we get your funding. There are no completion certificates. So the worst thing in the world, and I can remember this from going through, every deal at Matrix, is waiting on a customer to say that job is done. The production manager forgets to have the homeowner confirm with the bank, or for some odd reason they can't answer the phone for the confirmation call, or there's a certain thing that they didn't get signed. I know how it goes. With Sunlight, it is super easy, right? There's a couple different options to go. After 20 deals that you push through with us, we can get you on fast track. But normally what it's going to be is just a text message to the homeowner. Hey, is the job done? Yes or no? They click yes, you get paid. All right. There's no confirmation call, no completion certificate, super easy, and you're funded the next day.
We like that. Got to get paid when the work is done.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how some companies are lax in that department. And, it's a lot to keep up with. If you're doing a lot of volume, it's a lot to keep up with as you're growing, to have to chase those completion certificates. And I know from my own pain and suffering of dealing with that throughout the years. And I've leaned on just about every lender we work with, not just Sunlight, to say that if it's going to be a challenge to get paid in the end, then there's no way we can do business, especially with the big ticket volume we do. I mean, our average basement project is 60,000. So if we're waiting on a $30,000 balance, the job is done, we'd like to get paid. So it's great you guys have that. It makes it easy for the homeowner and easy for the contractor.
The only thing that you'll need to upload into our Orange portal is just a copy of the contract, whether that's a PDF, picture on your phone, handwritten napkin that they signed. We don't care. Just throw something in the portal, and that's all you need to get funded. Whether that's and that's for final. We'll even stage fund you without all of that information. You just got, in order to get final funding, you just got to have a picture of the contract in there.
So again, as I'd mentioned, when Sunlight and Matrix met, we met through the Grasso program, actually back, I think, in 2019. So again, everything's kind of coming full circle here. But I mentioned to Kevin over there, who was my contact at that time. Now Greg is representing Matrix, which is great. I had mentioned we got to find a way to serve this to the sales team in a way that gives them something to get excited about. Because again, if there's not a differentiator, if there's no benefit to them to use and try a new lender, they're not going to. You probably know as a business owner that it really is up to your reps ultimately when they're in the home. If you're working with 3 or 4 different lenders, you can try to mandate, and we try to steer them towards certain lenders, but they'll usually try to figure out what lender plugs in best with that customer's situation, or the plan they want and need, or the payment factor they want and need, their perception of what that customer's credit score could look like. So we really framed the whole thing around how can we capture all those needs to where now one lender can be the one place we always point things to first. And for me, it was, I want to see if we can get a bigger average approval, because especially on the basement projects we do, there's a ton of add-ons and scope changes. We typically add on 20% to our average project. And so when we went through the comparison and we began to run with the Sunlight program, we're looking now at a chart that shows, based on the credit score, the FICO score, what the difference looked like in the average approval. And you can see it's pretty staggering, the additional funds we were able to get over and above the other lending options. So therein is the advantage right there, just to get more money to play with. And that helps us tuck in those add-ons as we go along without a whole lot of rigor, because even another benefit with Sunlight is that we don't have to do a whole new set of loan documents if we're adding on more work. So if there's a $5,000 add-on, we can just go in and hit a button and we can get the extra 5,000. We don't have to get with the homeowner and redo everything, and they're technology inept, and so is our salesperson, our sales rep. And 5 weeks go by before we finally get the final set of those documents signed, or maybe they don't get signed accidentally. Who's had this happen? You don't get the eDocs redone, and that add-on somehow gets into the system. They do the extra work. The job is now done. We need to get paid. Oh, we need 5,000 more. And we're just now working on this after the job is completed, not even knowing for sure if we're going to get it. That's scary. I don't know if anyone listening has experienced that. I know I have on more than one occasion. So I can talk a lot about this slide, but the proof really is in these results that you see here. Again, it's not just because they're a sponsor of the Grasso program that I'm endorsing Sunlight the way I am. We're working with them on the Matrix side. Matrix is my baby. We're on pace to do about 70 million this year. So we're cooking with grease. And so I don't have any incentive to endorse something that doesn't work unless it works. So that's the advantage of what you get from Grasso University and what you can get from Sunlight.
Yeah, and just to summarize how that can really hit home for your business as well is, if you're asking for the $8,000 there that you see, and we're automatically going to give you 20,000. And on top of that, typically what we do is we approve for $5,000 to $10,000 more on top of that, right? So if you ask for 20, we'll give you 25 or 30. But what we just did recently is we added in a max approval as well. So if you ask for 20, we'll probably approve you for 30, and then we'll also give you a max approval of 70 or 80, depending on what the customer qualifies for. So as soon as you run that credit application, you're going to know how far you can stretch that. So if you are doing multiple product offerings, you can group them all into one loan. Like Nick was just mentioning, if you're worried about change orders, especially on a big ticket, say your sales rep, they talked about throwing in the bar and they took the bar out because they had to get something done. They had to rework the deal a little bit. You go back for a plan review or a project review and you decide the customer wants to put that bar back in. Well, you've got an extra $30,000 or $40,000 to work with, and they don't have to resend any documents. It's just easy as just putting it right back in, and that goes right to your bottom line.
Yeah, 20,000 and up, bigger tickets, Sunlight is going to outperform the others. And if you're in the window replacement business and you do siding and roofing or baths, get with Sunlight and go after more combo projects. Teach your reps how to sell a bigger average ticket. That's one thing we've done here to boost our volume. Is it's not just growth and adding on more sales reps. We've increased our average ticket year over year. Greg can tell you, back when he first started, our average basement was probably 30,000. Now
Yep.
the average is 60. So just that's crazy when you do the math. I mean, you look at my team, I have 31 reps. Some of it's 30% of that force is baths, but you got 31 reps putting up 70 million. So that's an average of 2.5 million per rep. How do you get there? The little things make the big difference. You have to get them selling bigger average tickets. You got to get them more educated on the financing, which we're going to talk about in a minute. The importance of educating your reps and your sales managers too on being super sharp with the financing. I look at it like every rep should be as knowledgeable as Greg or whoever the rep is at the lender that you're working with. I want them to be that knowledgeable about the financing, and they are. It's a big part of our training. So we'll continue on, but this right here is a pretty powerful slide, Greg, and I know the guys on the Matrix team have been pretty happy with what they've seen so far. All right, so we're going to dive into some training, give everyone a shot in the arm, call it a mini workshop. And I believe it's really important that you train your reps on financing, and it's a two-part training. They need to be trained on how to process an application, how to handle stipulations if they ever pop up, or snags, getting through the eDoc process and everything getting buttoned up that way from an X's and O's perspective. dotting I's, crossing T's, maybe is a better way of looking at it. Once they get that understood, then they need to be trained on how to sell the financing, how to actually sell it and deliver it at the customer's table, at the kitchen table. And Sunlight, just like every other lender, will offer a training on the initial training that I mentioned, which is how to process an application. All the minion level, quite frankly, training is offered by most, but generally that's where it stops from my experience. So they train everyone for an hour, they put them to sleep on a webinar about how to process an application, and then the merchant never hears from them again. And then they call like a month later and they say, "Where's all the volume you've been promising me? Why aren't you guys using our program?" And I'm like, "Well, we did a boring training with you for 45 minutes, and then we've never heard from you again." And my reps have they have other financing plans they like to sell with other lenders that they talk to more often or that they're more comfortable with. And once they get comfortable doing things a certain way, it's hard to get them to break certain habits. Salespeople, I'm sure you can all appreciate that. In my opinion, it's important that you train them from the outset the right way and it's thorough. So at Matrix, and part of Greg's role when he was with Matrix was taking the reps through what was almost a week-long training on pricing out a job, paperwork, and buttoning up the sale properly by doing the paperwork the proper way, how to turn in the sale and submit it to the company the right way. That was a week of our training. Included with that was the financing training, how to process an application, how to dot your I's and cross your T's, and then some additional sales training on how to deliver the financing, how to use it as a boomerang to the close. So you have your sales methodology, performing the activity of selling the financing in the home, and then you have the clerical portion of it. That needs to be a week's worth of training, in my opinion. Greg, would you agree with that?
100%. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and I worked for a company in Chicago before I started Matrix. I won't mention the name, but they're one of the nation's largest home improvement companies at the time, doing hundreds of millions of dollars in business. Great company. But one thing I noticed coming from a company that sold, emphasize financing, always introduce monthly payments, use the financing as the bring to the close. So this company did not have any formal training on financing. None of the reps even knew what lending options they had and with what lender. The credit applications were literally collecting dust in the corner of the sales room. No one was offering financing. One location of like 86 national locations, but this one location in Chicago, Greg, no one was offering financing. It was all cash. It was all cash or credit card. Maybe they offered financing if someone came out and said, "Do you offer financing? Do you guys, can I get finance through you?" Then maybe they would get financing for the customer, and it would have to be like the office manager that took care of it all because the rep had no idea. And this wasn't that long ago. This is about 13 years ago. So can you imagine? Think about that for a second. You might be one of those companies. Grasso trains with and works with a lot of contractors who say, "Well, so, 90% of our business is cash anyway. We don't need it. It's all our business is cash." And I think to myself, well, that's great. I would say about 70% of our business is finance. And so I wonder if, all that additional volume that we're doing, it's way above and beyond the volume that some of you are doing. It's because we do sell and push financing and we pick up all that business that you're not getting right now. So you think all your business is cash, but you're not focusing on what's important is all the lost opportunity. Okay. So you have to sell and offer financing in some way. So if you're on this call today and you're on the call because you're wondering what's all this financing about, like maybe I should consider selling financing. And I'm not being facetious, Greg. Believe it or not, there's probably people in the industry who just, for whatever reason, they don't want to sell and offer finance. And they look at it like a cost to the company. And it is because you have to build in the merchant fees, or they have some disdain for selling financing. So if you're on this today because you're one of those folks who's trying to figure out what's all the buzz about with financing, sign up with Sunlight, become a merchant, introduce it the way I'm about to explain at the kitchen table, and just let the results speak for themselves. If you see that your volume is increasing, your closing rate's increasing, your average ticket's increasing, your gross margin's increasing, which it will, then you're going to love that you joined us on this webinar today. And if you're one of those companies though that is already offering 5 different lending programs through 5 different lenders, and you've been sticking with financing the way I'm describing, you understand what I'm putting down here. Again, Sunlight can give you things the other ones won't. And then the thing they'll give you the other ones definitely won't is what we're going to give you right now, which is at least a monthly workshop, boot camp style training, talking about selling financing at the kitchen table to John and Mary homeowner. And Greg will be facilitating that. Garasso is always involved with facilitating those trainings as well. If you're on our online educational platform, and hopefully you are, you can see myself or Dominic breaking down this closing sequence over and over and over again. And you can watch it and have your reps watch it and have your sales manager watch it and master it. That's there for you. Of course, there's a little bit of a cost associated with subscribing, but the cost to not subscribe is, I think, much bigger than that. But then at no cost, Greg, I'm sure if you sign up with him and you're working with him and you just want him to jump in and do some training with your team, get involved in a sales meeting and make that a portion of the sales meeting, which I would suggest anyway, spice it up, bring a different voice into the room. He's capable of helping you with this training because he's done it. Because he's done it and he knows it and he was under, the Matrix umbrella for so long, he's an asset as well that differentiates Sunlight. I have to imagine that most of the other lenders that do the cookie cutter training for 45 minutes and you never hear from them again, it's because they don't have a Greg in their camp that has the bandwidth to get on a call with a contractor and get into the weeds on sales fundamentals. And I'm encouraging Greg to do as much of that as he can because he's good at it, he knows it, and it's going to help his volume too. He wants to get more out of his merchants. So, he has all the interest in the world at trying to help you do more volume. So anyhow, let's begin. I just babbled a lot there, but onboarding, what to expect real quick. Policies and procedures have to be delivered to your sales reps in writing. That should be from the outset of your training. You should lay that on thick. We have a template in our online educational platform of a policies manual you can pull and you can rebrand it for your use. And that policies manual spells out for the rep the expectations. Part of the expectation is that you're going to master and learn financing. You're going to master and learn the process of turning a good, clean business to the company. That is half the battle when you're doing a lot of volume, especially, is getting good, clean business in on time, complete. That way your office is not pulling their hair out. And a lot of that is financing. Don't let your reps take the path of least resistance. Don't let them lean on someone internally to do all their dirty work and fix their paperwork. Make them do it, make them learn it. So that's where the expectations have to start. Now, this is a portion of the webinar you could serve to your sales manager and even your sales team. If you'd like to clip it, have them watch this part, I would suggest it. So let's kind of fast forward. Now you're a Sunlight merchant. You've been trained on how to process an application. You've gone back to your sales team. You've made it clear to them that there's an expectation they learn and master the financing. No one's calling from the house miffed on how to run an application their first day out there. How many of you have done that where your rep goes out on his first appointment, he's all enthusiastic and ready to go, gets the deal signed, they sign on the line which is dotted, and he calls up and says, I have no idea how to process this financing right now. And now he's fumbling through it, right? Losing momentum. Maybe the customer's in a hurry. Maybe they want to go to bed and he can't get through that financing and the deal maybe gets lost or it unravels or it cancels the next day because now someone has to call and help drive it through the finish line and they get cold feet. That sucks, doesn't it? Everything that sucks, I've learned through my own cost prohibitive trial and error. And then I fix things. So I go, okay, it doesn't work to just train a rep, give him a rate sheet and a number to call to run an application if he's lucky enough to make a sale. That doesn't work. I've done it though. It doesn't work. You have to have someone like Greg who's going to train your team on how to sell the financing, how to execute it, and also lean on Greg to be that guy to train your trainer. So beyond that is, how are we using the financing in the house? First and foremost, the financing you offer should be highlighted in your company's story. Well, let's back up for a minute. it should be in your needs assessment when you begin to ask questions about how the homeowner may be thinking about handling the total investment. Were you thinking of using your own resources for this? Or would you be interested in learning more about some of our flexible monthly investment options? Are you taking out, a lot of people right now are going through a refi and they're finding with these really low interest rates, that's an advantage. And it's a lot to ask of someone during a needs assessment, but we do have questions in the needs assessment that touch on this. That's really where the conversation begins. You're planting that seed. Then when you get into your company story, you should have at least one slide that talks about financing again. So now you're revisiting it a second time. You're talking about the financing during your company's story and you're explaining why you offer financing, differentiating your company by saying the truth, which is that we are different than the other contractors that you may meet with because we have the ability and the privilege of being able to provide financing to our clients. And that's an advantage that most of our competitors do not have because they don't qualify to facilitate and serve as a merchant for these lenders. It's a big responsibility, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Now, because we've been in business for X number of years, we have strong financials, we're built and we're an organization, we're able to connect with these amazing lenders and offer these services. You should be talking about that in your company story, right? Price conditioning. During your price conditioning, you should be showing the ad, whatever ad it is that they called from. And if that ad has anything financing related in it, and it should, whatever that call to action is that's relative to financing, always have financing in your advertising. Make sure the customer knows it's something that you offer. Make sure they know that there's some special incentive that's time sensitive that they can take advantage of. Put that in your marketing. And then during your price conditioning, when you ask, hey guys, help me understand, how familiar are you with the cost of finishing your basement? I understand you saw our ad. What prompted you to call from that ad? Let's talk real quick about the promotion we are offering real quick. Pull out the ad. We have this amazing financing program we're offering. Is that something that would be of interest to you? Remind me in the end to bring it up and to share it with you if it's of interest to you once we get to that point, and plant that seed. If you use this in the house, give your customer a little homework assignment. It sounds like you really love the idea of the interest-free financing, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Do me a favor. When we get to the proposal in the end of our meeting today, can you remind me of that just so I don't forget to share it with you? Should it feel like, we're in a good position, maybe we're in a good spot to possibly earn your business and you like what you see, could you bring that back up to me in the end? Try planting that little seed and see if they bring it back up in the end. Because that's a test. If they bring it back up and they're like, well, what about that financing you were offering? That's a great sign, isn't it? So moving into the close, when you're presenting the total investment, going through your retail closing sequence, segueing into your initial visit savings, if you're following a one-call close model, which we would suggest you do, here's the advantage of financing. When you lead with that initial 30-day or 1-year proposal, you should always put alongside of that proposal some assumed initial deposit and list out a few monthly investment options and make sure that those options are written out clearly on the whatever form it is you use to present that total investment. Have a space there for investment terms and have it pre-filled out. So when you deliver that, it's showing those terms and those options right alongside of your quote. Okay, so back to my experience of working with that company in Chicago real quick. I was just there as a sales rep. I wasn't their sales manager. I wasn't the director, but I was a guy that had been selling home improvement for a long time at a young age. And I was energetic. And I went in there and said, guys, I got an idea. We're going to take this rate sheet right here. And there's a multiple right here that you can use if you want to just offer this plan to keep things simple for now. Take your total investment and multiply it by that payment factor. And then write that monthly investment down next to the total price when you present price. And let's just start with that. Let's not even get any further than that. You can still call Pat if you're lost and you have no idea how to get the application approved, but just do that part. Can you do that? And nothing for me in this. There's no skin in the game. I'm going to help you. I want to help you because you see I'm doing pretty good here. Let me help you. Guess what, Greg? That volume there went up considerably, almost right off the rip, just from that one little thing, because when you lay down the monthly investment next to that total investment and they see it First of all, it takes them off the ledge a little bit, right? The sticker shock. They may begin to ask questions about that. So, what about the promotional financing plan we saw? That's not the same plan you're showing me now. What about that plan? Fantastic. Glad you asked. But some conversation should percolate around that monthly investment option. So if you're not presenting financing right now and you're not putting it out there, alongside of the initial proposal, you're missing out on business right there all day long without having to do anything else. Now, we're going to do more with it. We're going to use that as a way to begin to isolate the customer's desires financially so that we can close the gap and earn their business while we're there. And part of the closing sequence is, if we can make this 100% affordable and comfortable for you, is there any reason why we wouldn't be able to earn your business, Greg? So if we can make it 100% affordable, it's safe to say we can get you started. And when we talk about affordable, we're talking about affordability by way of monthly investment options, right? They don't know that, but we're going to present it to them. And when we do, we're going to sell the financing, talk about the advantages of it, unsecured, not secured. So we're not leaning your property. This is quick and painless. I have a paperless process. I can get you an approval instantly. You don't have to fill out a loan packet this thick. It's instantaneous, all e-signatures. Start selling the value of the financing. Now, I'm not going to go into a long dissertation here because there's a video on our platform where I talk for an hour about how to actually sell the financing. As you're introducing it to the homeowner, what are the things you're going to say to influence them and to kind of normalize that financing and make it seem more attractive to them, rather than just going, it's $200 a month. Say, real quick, Greg, it sounds like the monthly investment option may be something you're interested in for if and when you do decide to move ahead with the project. I want to share with you a little bit about the value and the advantage of that, Greg. You familiar with the difference between secured and unsecured loans? Some people aren't. I wasn't until I purchased my first home. Here's what I learned about the difference. So the great thing about this one is no lien on the property, instantaneous, doesn't impact your current mortgage situation. Explaining this stuff to people, as elementary as it might seem, you have no idea how much of a benefit that is to getting the customer more comfortable and excited about saying, well, the hell with it, let's just finance it. You want to get them thinking like they're buying something at a department store with a credit card. You understand? You got to charge it to the game. Give me my new windows. Let's go. You don't want them just marinating on this big number and they can't stroke a check for it. You got to sell the financing, sell the heck out of it, right? Yep. Then once we've established that that's probably the way they're going to go with and when they do move forward, now all of a sudden it gets even more simple. Let me ask you a question. Looking at this investment option, looking at this rate, looking at this term, do you find that comfortable for you and affordable? And are you pleased with the details of the program? Well, as a matter of fact, we are. Great. Well, stick your hand out and assume the sale. But if they say no, or we got to think about it, or it's too much money, which is typically what people will say. If it's too much money, now we can drill down into that financing again. How much too much is it? When you say it's too much money, is it the interest rate, the term, or the monthly investment that has you concerned? Well, it's the monthly investment. It's just a little more than we were looking to spend per month. I understand. No problem. Thank you for being candid with me. Just out of curiosity, how much too much is it? Is it $25 a month too much? $50 a month too much? You tell me. Well, if we could get into this range, I think we'd feel much better about it. Great. Other than that, would there be anything preventing us from getting this put together? Now you're going to hopefully you have an initial visit offer you make. You explain the urgency and the importance of doing business while we're there on the initial visit, if it makes sense for them, of course, and we're going to reward them in some way. In this example I'm giving, I'm flying through this, the financing becomes magically the reward that I'm offering at that point, right? I'm going to now offer whatever financing plan satisfies their concern about the monthly investment or the interest rate or the term, but it is only offered upon the initial visit, okay? Because it's a special promotion that we can only offer by virtue of us being able to get together while we're here. And people bite on that, and it's credible. And I do it typically without dropping my total price all that much, because if I know they're going to finance it, they need the financing, I may have to pay more of a merchant fee to now offer a more attractive plan. To me, that's, in my mind, like the same thing as a discount. And that's the way I train the reps to think, is every time you offer a plan that's 5% more than the plan you were offering, look at that like another discount, because that's what it is. It's coming right out of your retail number. You're building it into your margins, hopefully. That's a whole nother training session for a whole nother day. How to build the merchant fees into your margins properly, how to maybe even make it so it helps you become a little more profitable. There's a lot of meat on that bone for the owners that are listening. We can have that as an offline conversation, building the fees in properly. So look at this little subject, financing. People think it's so simple. There's a lot of layers to it. This is just an overview, but I wanted to dive into this, give you a few gold nuggets, something to think about when you're in the kitchen table or you're at the kitchen table selling financing. And I wanted to plant the seed for Greg and kind of make this connection between Greg and everyone on the call, because he can do these mini little boot camp conversations with your sales team. And hey, I got reps here at Matrix Guaranteed that still don't do this to perfection. It's a nonstop battle to get these guys to perfection, and they're never going to get there. It's like focus on progress, not perfection. But I'll bring them in. We'll roundtable about this subject. Hey, how's everyone introducing financing? What plans are you introducing alongside of your retail proposal? How are you isolating financing as the objection? Then how are you using that as the boomerang to the sale? Let me see your closing sheet from last night. I want to see how many. It better look like graffiti. I want to see that you were offering all these different plans and terms and options and trying to figure out a way to earn their business. And if I don't see that on that closing sheet, then I have to imagine you were loafing in there. And let's talk about that. And guess what? Even the veteran guys fess up that maybe they've been a little weak in this department, or they're not selling the value of the financing, and they're not going through that dissertation about why is this such a great thing versus secured, it's unsecured, blah, 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 instantaneous. They're not doing that little spiel anymore. It's that one little thing they stop doing sometimes, or they never were doing in the first place. And when they start doing that one little thing, guess what? Maybe they close one more sale a month. Maybe they close 5 more a month, but they're going to do better. And it's a nonstop thing. So Greg will get on those calls with your team. He's there for you. And I want to see the Grasso program and the volume of Grasso clients working with Sunlight. I want to see it get to a point where it's almost like it's, I don't know, a team in and of itself where we can do these webinars together. And if Greg gets 20 people calling and wanting training, which he probably will and does, it's going to get to the point where we'll make sure those are preset, focused, workshops that we're doing just sales strategies, if that's what you need. Or I guess real quick to kind of tie this up, why don't you speak to that just a little bit as well? You were mentioning it earlier when we were just chatting, the importance of training the mid-level management, and I guess give your perspective on that and how you would do that.
Yeah, so a part of what I want to focus on is, like you said earlier, not only just getting you onboarded and, teaching guys how to sell or teaching guys how to run a credit application, but also help understand how I can dive more deeply into your sales process and where I can strengthen some of the things that you're really good at, or help seriously improve on some of the weaknesses that you're seeing in not, company wide, but then also rep specific. Just jumping on a call or doing some training once a month, or, once a week, once a month, whatever it takes to get that guy up and running or your team up and running will make all the difference. And it could just be one thing that he's missing on. I used to say, on every single customer, no matter who it was, whether it was somebody that was just window shopping, or I felt like they were window shopping, or somebody that I thought was a lay down, or whatever the case may be, I got 2 jobs, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. 1, get you what you want, and 2, make it comfortable and affordable for your budget, right? And that's a really easy conversation to have when you're at that closing table, like Nick was just mentioning, going through and offering all these different options, right? If the homeowner understands that you're there to help and you're going to do whatever it takes to make it work for them, well, then they'll be open to it, right? But if you're just trying to hammer numbers down their throat, they're gonna shut down, right? So if I can really focus on that second point with your team of getting across that they are there as a service to the homeowner to make it comfortable and affordable for their budget, things are going to run a lot smoother. And I can dive more in depth with each one of your reps at, basically whenever you need to.
Yeah, and just to add to that, be a lifeline for the reps when they're in the house, which is another added benefit. I will say some of the other lenders that we work with also do a great job of that. It's just that they don't always have the same savvy or experience at the kitchen table. So it's kind of like a double-barreled thing with Greg, where they might be calling him for a snag on an application, or they need more approval, or maybe it was a decline they want him to take another look at. And sometimes he might be able to pull some things through for you, but he may also, give you a suggestion or help you with a way to overcome the objection to make the sale. So, to have that lifeline to call to is a big advantage as well. And so again, if you're not with Sunlight already, give Greg some time to do an orientation. And by the way, to that point, I believe you guys still have some complimentary tickets to give away.
We do. Yep. So I will put my Calendly link up, which I can put up right now, actually. You can actually use your phone to scan that, and it'll take it right to my Calendly. Just open up your camera and put it right on the screen. You could set aside 15, 30, or an hour with me and just put it right on my calendar. We'll get you going, or you can text me or call me. That's my cell phone number right there. But once we get everything set up, the sooner that you schedule an appointment, I can send over that registration link with the code to get you in and get that comp ticket, which I think are going for what, $2,000 a piece, Nick. So I still have a select few to give out.
We're getting tight, really. I mean, we're close to max capacity. So if you are, or if you're not registered to attend the Grosso University Owners Camp, which is August 16th and 17th, Embassy Suites, O'Hare, Chicago, you definitely will want to take action. And with Sunlight being our platinum level sponsor, they have a pretty good allotment of complimentary tickets. And Greg, in exchange for just a meet and greet, will register you a ticket. And if you need more tickets for your team, just let us know over here at Grosso University. So I'm proud to announce that we are live now with Sunlight Max and the full spectrum lending solution. And the way this works is that there's no FICO requirement to pick up an approval on every application you send over. Now, Greg's going to talk in a minute about how they may be capped at a certain loan amount. There's going to be a different interest rate associated with their level that they fall into. But this program truly qualifies every single application. And I'll say this, and then I'll let Greg run with it and tell you more about the details. When your rep, back to training your rep. So if the rep has built a lot of rapport with their client, the client is being open with them about financing, and they spill the beans that their credit isn't the greatest, or they just filed bankruptcy 3 years ago, or whatever the case might be. We've all heard that, right? And it can be demoralizing as a salesperson after you sit with someone for 4 hours. They're finally ready to say yes, and they drop the bomb on you that they have a 590 FICO, and they missed their last 2 mortgage payments. That hurts. I train the reps to be perceptive of that. If they think someone may be credit challenged, don't discount the price if you're going to, maybe just slightly, but leave that thing sitting as close to full retail as you can, so you can absorb the fees that are going to come with that lower tier borrower. So I just want to plant that into the discussion, because when Greg shows you the next slide breaking down, the tiers and the fees associated with it, you do need to be prepared to build those fees in. So if your reps are, all the way discounted down as low as they can go, knowing that this person might need this miraculous gift that only Sunlight Max offers, which is an approval for them to borrow money, they may not want to discount like crazy. So that's my advice. Now, Greg, why don't you share with everyone more of the details? But I'm so excited this is going right now, because if everybody on this call is listening, hopefully they still are, I said 100% of your applications are going to be approved.
Yeah, appreciate it, Nick. And yes, that is correct. So I'm sure you guys have been reading through this as Nick was talking, but there is no FICO requirement. Just to kind of a broad overview going into, the max portion is every application will be ran through as a standard application up front to qualify for our standard rates on the rate sheet, right? Anything above a 660 is going to get approved for at least 20,000 on our standard rate sheet. And then you and your rep can, offer whatever plan they chose. So again, that's a 660 Experian 9 credit score. That's what we pull, qualifies for that. Now, if they're less than that, what's going to happen is they're going to fall into a couple of tiers, right? And just to power through this, they could fall into tier 1, tier 2, 3, all the way down to 5. Now, tier 5, like Nick was saying, is for those people that are seriously credit challenged, but there will be an approval on there. Now, what you as a dealer are going to have the ability to do is customize what option you want to be able to offer the customer and have your rep use, right? So if you see within tier 1, there are 3 options. There's a 15.5 down to an 11.9. Now, the way that this is going to work, because it is a little bit of a higher risk customer, is obviously there's going to be a dealer fee to you. Now, if you're offering the 11.9%, it will be a little bit higher dealer fee to you. If you're offering the customer the 15.5, then it'll be a lower dealer fee to you. Now, that depending on how you have your reps selling, if they're on a par system, if there's an overage system, or if you're doing flat rate pricing, and you can account for how much you want to incur. Now, the best thing about this too is you can turn off the tiers, right? So if you don't even want, like tier 1 may be, a low 600 credit score, or they might have one blemish on their credit or something, we'll still take that deal. If you don't want to deal with some of those higher risk customers down with the higher risk, or with the higher dealer fees, you can turn off the tier 4 and tier 5, right? So if you only want to accept tier 1, 2, and 3, we can turn those off for you. If you only want to accept tier 1, we can turn off the rest of them. So this is fully customizable in that sense. And you can see all of the breakdown. And, once we set up a call, we could dive way more in depth on this, because there's obviously a lot more here that we can't cover. But moral of the story is we are going to accept every deal if you want to take it, and give me a call and we'll talk more about it.
If you want to contact Greg, we have his contact information here on the screen. And I just want to thank you, Greg, and thank the team over at Sunlight for your commitment to the Grasso program, and also for being open-minded to the suggestions that I've made. And I know they listen to their contractors and they get feedback purposefully so they can continue to improve. And it doesn't surprise me you guys just went public because of the great team you have over there and the vision you guys have. So kudos to you. And hopefully we see everyone on this call at the event. Greg is going to be at the event. We have amazing sponsor partners who will be there. We have amazing speakers. It's 2 days of CEO level, upper level management training, and you're not going to want to miss the event. Thanks again, Greg, for being with us.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
And make it a great day, everybody.